Hey, right? Like, this is going to be over in 5 minutes?
Yeah, probably. Anyway, I was gonna say they were gonna be late by probably 2 or 3 minutes, but since most of the first half's gonna be you talking anyway, I think that's probably fine.
Okay. Well, should we just get started?
Before we start, as I said earlier, this first part's going to be Diff and probably Tank making a general announcement about the state of things, and after that, we're going to open the floor for questions on that, and then if we have time, we'll get to the regular Q&A stuff.
I'm pretty confident there'll be no questions. It's totally just normal.
But
you know.
Go ahead, start.
Okay, so by now I expect that everybody has seen the in-game mail or the announcement here about setting new course. So I'll just first things first. We need to get on the map marketing-wise, and we've been putting in a fair sum, but our keywords don't operate for us. For example, if you fire up your phone and you go to one of your app stores and you look up Ship Girls, you can scroll down that list all day long and you'll never even see Victor Bells. So our advertising, which we've tried, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, Google Ads, et cetera, our advertising is not really reaching, sort of the depth of the audience that we need. So as a result, it's going to be imperative for us to focus all of our attention on that problem. That means content slowdown. So I think I outlined here, or we outlined, first, we're going to do the enhancements and bug fixes that are in the pipe. After that, we definitely need to slow down on the new features, focus on the bugs, and also really ramp towards, what does a publisher look like? What outcomes do they need? Right. Bell content. I'm sure nobody has an opinion on this one, and this is totally non-controversial. We're gonna slow that down to one new bell per month, and it will appear only in a gacha. That's not actually like a money grab. That's just a consequence of the fact that we're not going to do the event world map updates, which are a considerable chunk of time and require both dev and the content team. Old bell content, a lot of folks have been looking forward to the recyc on the event bells, again, for the same reasons that I just outlined, which is, map creations, globe. We're gonna take that off the table. You'll be able to see them again via their gotchas, but that's the extent of it. Likewise, all previously released costumes will be added to the store. Now, I got the question last night. What about some of the Valentine's costumes? Because people had seen those. I don't think we have an answer on that yet. They might come in a future release. I guess we'll see when we get to Valentine's Day. Story content. So temporary pause, League of Nations, Bell stories. That includes the introduction of the already written stories into the game, which again requires dev and content to enable that pipeline. We will not process the war weekly any longer. That is about maybe 3, people who have to do that for about 3 days. So it's a significant chunk of change to process a turn. Instead, we're standing up a new team fronted up by Corky, your German mod, who I think is stepping down from that role. And they'll be doing turn processing, but they'll be doing it slower, right? Expect a 2 to 4 week turnaround. He can probably outline more of the strategy on that one. Ranking, cycles, that kind of stuff, it's all going to continue, but with 2 changes. The first is standard rewards. Why? Dev and content to implement the pipeline, right? And then number 2, we're going to keep track on who won the murals. right? So that you guys can at the future just fit right in a line to specify and call out your bell. But in terms of the effort to actually bring them, that's going to be bound by that one bell per month, sort of rule, right? That means that it's unlikely that you'll see them in the near term, mostly because of the content creation that has to happen around them and then the dev work, right, to implement them. Kickstarter, PayPal, the books and other rewards like the plushies, they have to be on hold while we focus, basically all resources on marketing. I think that's the meat of it. Obviously, we've got a ton to do, and we would love your support and assistance. Reddit, Twitter, forums, your friends, any and all ideas really to spread the word about the game itself, because that is the thing that we've really got to beat. That's the thing that we've really got to change. Okay, so Wigbert, I think that's the spiel.
All right.
Meat of it. I mean, I guess I just sort of read from the Slab article, but
Well, promised people we'd take questions pertaining to that now, so feel free to start reading the ones in the Q&A chat for that if you have it open.
Give me the first. Where should I start? Who's
scroll up, start. There, I found it. I'll send you the link for it.
Let's see. Gotcha. Oh, it's not really a gotcha, Dr. Pepper. It's those little bell bundles that you go and they're gotcha like, right? They're finite, so they you don't really you're always guaranteed to get it, but it's basically a pay per play, right, on those bundles. Let's see. Pitchforks, yeah, don't blame you, no problem. Not to be joking. I mean, yeah, it's
it wouldn't be a Q&A otherwise.
I'm generally, kind of sarcastic, but I'll see what I can do to tamp that down. Let's see. Yes, the League of Nations stories will obviously have to interact not at all with your faction choices until we reinstitute them. Now, that was always an interesting thing because folks were not too pleased, or maybe I didn't really identify with the captain anyway. Like they didn't think they were sort of like reading their own story. So I think in that regard, like, sort of makes maybe as a solution to that problem inadvertently. But when we reinstitute them, I guess I would simply say that I think we heard you guys that you don't necessarily identify with the captain, and they're going to have to be maybe more at the fringes of the conflict rather than necessarily at the center. That's, kind of an interesting, take on it. Let's see. Couldn't you just add the event bells to a regular existing map as a quick and dirty thing? No. I wish that were true. I wish that were true. Let's see. Story-wise, Godot for Valentine's Day. That would, when it gets to like February 14th, we'll see what happens when we get there. Adding a drop table take dozens of hours. No, it's not a code thing. It's well, I mean, it is a code thing too. But obviously, when you're dealing with drop tables, you have to really think about their design and what's going to get displaced and how that changes the probabilities. A change to any single drop table is usually not enough. You have to look at the overall, what is the drop rate that's intended for those bells that you're displacing. Where do they now go? And so there's a whole knock-on effect. Let's see. Push button event added. No, that's not true, sadly. Modding. Yeah, what Sagril said is absolutely true. Horsebeams, it's totally possible. I think we're all just playing the hand that we're dealt. We absolutely have to focus on marketing, and if that stifles it, I mean, that would suck. I hope that's not true. but at the same time, like we must not, right, apply resources except in a limited way in that area, and that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. Yeah, it's yeah, that's actually our intent as well, some booze. That especially when it comes to the nation, like selected bells, they're meant to go into the regular map drop tables. Will the gotcha bells be permanent or no? Yes, because we will not be updating or spending the resources, right, to update the store in that fashion. Let's see. What does marketing look like? It's a good question. I think Dr. Pepper, what we're predominantly after as a publisher, right? By and large, you can't compete on our keywords, right? On a regular budget, 15, 25K. You can compete on our keywords when you have 200 to 300K. That's per month, right? Spend. So I think predominantly we're looking for a publisher, but anything viral we can do, yeah, absolutely. I think we're down for that. An Akagi gotcha playing with the bundles. I think all the gotchas, or most of them anyway, come with equipment, and generally it's either a take on what that character has or something new. I'm not familiar with Akagi's gotcha, but I think they all do have equipment. Let's see. YouTube. Yeah, I mean, it's true, Virgo. Doing more on YouTube, would help exposure. We did Gaijin Goomba for YouTube, and that got us something, but obviously not a tremendous, blow up viral event. But we're always open to collaborations where it makes sense, like where we have shared, content or shared sort of joys and interests, for sure. Let's see, weekly war plans. Yeah, no, it's the same deal, Weeb. So we're gonna effectively stop the war clock. That's not gonna happen in this cycle, but it's gonna happen on the next. And when Corky and his team is ready, they'll supply the new plans and the update, and then we're gonna implement that. That's actually very straightforward. Well, and Cinda, there's nothing wrong with Bell reruns as events. Like there's no harm in that. It's just the time spent, the resources applied in that area. That's where we don't want to go. So it's not that it's not possible. It's just we'll have other things to do. Yeah, Robin Saul. I mean, I like the weekly pace personally. I thought that was pretty interesting, but it can be a little hectic, that is for sure. Let's see. So let's separate, Robensol, for your next one. Let's separate out code and sort of the globe data. So if you're asking, do we have the old globe data? Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes. But then you would have to re-import, reapply, and retest the globe data. So it's not really a code function; it's a data function. Yeah, it's possible, horse memes, that's exactly what would happen. Not to put too fine a point on it. I hope it doesn't happen that way, but it's certainly totally possible that would occur. Electronic Arts, huh? Well, sure. Yeah, I guess. Prestige Generation. I don't think we intend on Prestige Generation to be any different. So I think that, at least, will be the same. Usually when all this stuff sounds like end of service. Yeah, I mean, end of service is a possibility, right? If any game needs a growing, healthy player base, like hands down, period, right? So if we can't get a growing, healthy player base, then yeah, I mean, that would be potentially an outcome. I hope not, but it's possible. Yeah, costs of the bundles. I don't know that we've talked about it firmly, but I see what you're saying. Like, increase it to make it a slightly more acquirable, get some more roles, per your average month. Yeah, I mean, we can certainly discuss. I mean, in particular for museum ships, we've always loved that idea. So the most people who attend, museum ships are, I mean, leaving aside, pure tourism, right, are people who are interested in naval technology or sort of the history that they went into. We're not against any type of partnership. When we talked to a couple, it was always either, oh, well, yeah, we could absolutely display this outside the bookstore, or they perhaps weren't interested. We could probably dust that back off, but I don't think it was the impression of at least the marketing gang that you would be getting a whole lot of traction from that. But you never know. Yo Star, well that would be hilarious. I mean, that would be interesting and fun. Apophis, yes, the in-game calendar will freeze, not this cycle, but sort of next Wednesday, it'll pause there until Corky and his team is ready. Let's see. This week's resets will have the new war plans. All that was built last week before we took this decision. Let's see. Yeah, Hornet is one of the ones that definitely was like, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. We don't have a Hornet, right? But it certainly forms a reason to absolutely create one. Let's see. Well, word to that, Horse Memes, man. I mean, seriously, like, I think everybody on this discussion right here, it's very clear that you guys want it all to go well. So let's see if we can blow it up, or let's see if we can entice a publisher. Either way is fine by me. And if that publisher is Yostar, I think that'd be absolutely hilarious. Let's do it. Let's see. You're worried about the future of the game? Sure. I mean, absolutely. We're all worried about the future of the game, Glatux. I think that's why we're here, discussing this. Not to take away from your point. I think, at least for me, or I should say, at least for our team, we're focused on, okay, well, what can we do, right? To keep it going. I hope that's everyone's mindset as well. Let's see. Can you make so inventory is an interesting thing. Much of the cost, Versia, as you probably can imagine, much of the server cost anyway, is storage. And if you think about your average naval rifle, it's got well over 100 statistics. So there's a reason why we have low inventory. I know that's not popular. Totally get that. But there's a reason why it's low inventory. So I would not expect the slot increase to go, like up. But one of the things that we've talked about that seems to make sense, and that we might be able to get into maybe a patch near you, is some form of taking vesters out of the inventory slots altogether. So that 300 would be for equipment and not really for vesters, and that way you can collect a whole bunch of vesters and it doesn't really bother what you're trying to do for R&D and whatnot. No promises on that, but that's in recognition of the problem. That is something that we're investigating. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry, Sagrel. Let's see. I don't know your questions. Oh no, Calc. We just started right here in the chat, so I have not seen your questions. I assume they're in Wigbert's doc, but
yeah, they are.
Okay, when I get down to the bottom, we'll just switch over to that. Yeah, Virgo, we're two of a kind. Let's see. Is naval mine warfare going to be implemented? Well, so the reason why we call the section on the bell where the ASW goes, the reason why we call that quarterdeck is because it is our intent that you can put mine systems there. And in fact, we have the idea for campaigns that are around dealing with Morgana minefields. In fact, you guys got a taste of that in the war, right, with Helgoland. as well as the ability to sort of deny to the Morgana's passage, at least not without cost, through your own minefield. So we have a place for it. It is intended. It is on the roadmap. But first things first, right? More players. Donna, yes, we are seeking a publisher. In fact, actually, the purpose of this conversation that we're having right now, or the reason, sorry, not the purpose, the reason why we're having this conversation is because up until Friday, we actually believed that we had a publisher more or less locked down. But unfortunately, that did not work out. Not going to cast any stones there, but just didn't work out. So we're going to have to renew. Now, we've been through a couple. There are still more ahead of us. So hopefully that is going to succeed. But right now, obviously, all of our efforts have to be on that outcome. Let's see, what is it about a publisher? A publisher, Calc, I think you know what a publisher is, but for us, a publisher is important because our keywords are very, very expensive to market to. Now, we cannot afford the kind of spend necessary to market into those keywords, but a publisher can, right? That's why anybody uses a publisher, right? It's because they're effectively marketing expertise. So hopefully that's gonna, hopefully we'll be able to secure one and they'll be able to put the right spend in the advertising. On our point, we're doing little things like we're going to change the name of the app from Victory Bells to Victory Bells : Ship Girls. Not because we think that that's a cool idea, but because you actually might be able to find it in the store if you search on Ship Girls. So we'll see how that goes. Bell stories in comic form. Wow, well that requires an illustrator and a publisher. And if we go digital, it's still just an illustrator, and then you got a layout artist and so on and so forth. It would be awesome.
Yeah, there's a question about FanWorks that I think is going to have to suffice in addressing that.
Yeah, so I don't think we can get there today, but that would be that would be cool. Let's see, new player legibility. Donna, I think you're right. I mean, you guys have obviously seen that we've been working on various quality of life and then various other features that are meant to sort of, capture and absorb. There's still more to be done there. I mean, a glossary is a very popular thing to ask for, right? And I think you'll see in future patches that's likely where we're going to spend our dev time. Maybe even at the expense of some, fairly obvious bugs, so that that happen late game, that is, so that we can really focus on, hey, what is the new player experience? Let's see. Yeah, I mean the ads do work, Virgo. Like there's nothing wrong with ad spend or anything of that sort. It's just more that unless you can really get your ad in front of a lot of interested people, you're battling your own attrition. But nobody has 100% retention rate, right? So every time you bring in somebody, another person is leaving, or however many people it is. So our base has been very, very constant. And so thank you guys on that. But we've always had basically the same base as when we started. And that's lovely, and the economics are great, but you need the scale, right? You need the scale. Oh yeah, Miho Yo, that would be one. We actually our big hope was a publisher in Korea, which would have been awesome to have, right? But that didn't fall through. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Keeping VB going isn't a problem, but keeping it going with all the things that we want it to do. Plus, also, I heard people are in business to make a profit. Like somebody told me that at one point. All of that. You really need a lot more scale, and we just don't have that budget. Let's see. Current freezes, nothing will be attached to the existing story or war plans. No retcons, no reversals of decisions. Now, I'll be honest here. God only knows what would happen if we pick up a publisher, right? Like at that point, like you wouldn't be talking to us about monetization, right? You'd be talking to the publisher. But having said that, I couldn't imagine them stepping back in time and doing a retcon or anything like that in terms of where you guys are at story-wise. Yeah, Godot. I mean, we have pretty big ambitions, right? I think you guys have heard me talk about crafting 2.0, and you've heard me talk about some of the systems I'd like to see in place, all of which require expert level attention and detail that have to become from contracted experts, right? It can't really go on and meet the full vision that we have for it. It can go on in a limited way, yes, but obviously it's not what we're all here for, right? We're all here for something that's cool, that's going to solve, I don't know, the displacement problems that you guys have noted, et cetera, et cetera. Deep Rocks, dwarf crossovers. Well, we did do Holdfast, so that would sort of make sense, yeah.
All right, Diff, we're going to start with the Senten questions now.
Okay, yeah. I'll just pause right here and then go.
Yeah. The first set were sent in by Wellington. First question is, they want progress updates on Garitzia and Renown. I know we talked about that last night, but go ahead.
So I'm sorry, I gave some bad information to you guys yesterday. I actually thought they were much further along than they are. Garitzia is 2 months in, and she's got her final art, but she needs all the little cut up pieces and chibis and whatnot. There's some data definition for her, but she's very similar to Pola, and I think her story is either being edited or close to anyway. Point is, there's a little bit that has to be done on her, but otherwise, she's complete now. Because we're doing one bell a month, I would not expect her to come sort of immediately, but eventually she'll find her way into the pipeline, I imagine. Renown has art. I saw the art, and I think it's final, but she's a lot less further along in terms of the story, and maybe some of the other ancillary aspects that go into the creation of a bell.
You saw her color sketch, apparently, not her art.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Like, actually, she's one of my favorites. Not that Garitzia is bad in any way, mind you. But anyway, yeah, so that's where they are.
Okay. Wellington's second question is, why does Mississippi have a 49 on her turret when she is BB 40?
Mississippi's really old. Like she must be like 7 years old, I think, from when we did that art. And both our team and Salmon, who was doing all the bells at that time, they had a lot of growing to do. Probably what happened was we got the turret off whoever BB49 is. I haven't even looked, and that's probably why it's there. Or he might have just thought it was cool, okay. Or he might have misread the number. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Next question is, will there be an opportunity to construct ships that historically were partially built but scrapped due to the original war? Example being the Lion class.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Welly asked me this, I think, just the other day about Lion herself. And gosh, I can't wait till you guys see the new plans at 5 o'clock. There's something for the French in there that I think that they'll find very interesting. I'm very curious to see what they do. But yes, it's totally possible for paper ships to enter the game. They will enter the game under the auspices of what happens in the war. So if you create the conditions under which those ships might enter the game, then they will enter the game. If you hew closer to maybe historical reality, or if you do something else in a different vein, obviously you won't have that opportunity.
There is, on the subject of the Lion classes, I do remember in Verdun's story, I don't know if anybody's gotten to this point, but the Lion class is actually specifically mentioned, and I won't say in what capacity, but my advice is to vote early on your devices.
Oh, there you go. And the second half of that question was, will there be a proactive way to order ships?
Will there be a proactive way? Well, yeah, you guys, well, your national ranking rewards, like on the monthly, are your proactive way of ordering ships. If you meant something through like a war plan, yes. In a way, the French are about to have that opportunity. I'm just very curious to see what they do.
Okay. And Wellington's fourth question is, will the daily decipher system stay? And
Oh, yes.
are the rewards...
Yeah. The daily login, the daily login will stay.
Okay, and the rewards, are they going to be the same every month, or?
It'll be the same every month. Yeah. As you guys know, what we like to do with ranking rewards and so on and so forth, besides fill it up with depth charges, is make that responsive to sort of the world conditions and kind of build in a little bit of backstory, stuff, that's going on, maybe out of sight, maybe in full view. Obviously, that until or we figure either if we go viral or we get a publisher, right, can't really burn content time in that area. So it's going to have to be the same. But no features. We're not going to take any features away from you guys. Everything is going to be available to you. I mean, that's why we're here. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Next question's from Zodiark. Are you going to release the Kickstarter bells now, or is that still like a half a year away at this point?
Well, yeah, I absolutely. So we can't. We made a promise to the Kickstarter patrons that we're not going to do it for a year out. Like, so we 100% need to honor that. So 6 months from now, 7 months from now, however many months, we at that time, based on what's going on, you might see them start feeding in, but it will definitely not happen before a year.
Okay. See, next set of questions, are from Apothes. This is for both you and Jenk individually. Which part of the game did the popular reception most surprise you, whether positively or negatively?
Oh, Jenk, you want to talk about Constitution? No, let's not touch that one. Let's not even go there.
Well, I'd say like the in regards to positive reception, like the War Room RP impressed me. Like people really took the metagame and ran with it in terms of the world building, and so I definitely want to see that continue. In particular, Minneapolis's reception, I loved her story, of course, but I was very pleased that it resonated with people. And as we're aware, so was her writer. She of course has a special place in my heart for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Jenk said. I think I knew that the War Room was going to be like cooking because anyone playing our game is interested in alt history, or generally is interested in alt history. But I didn't realize the degree to which you guys would bring in tons of aspects. I mean, what did I just see? Like folks like describing like small arms that they want to trade between nations. And I'm just like, well, that's rad. But yeah, no, that surprised me a little bit.
Oh, on the subject of Constitution, did Roosevelt's address to Congress about her death make it into the war plans?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Gotcha.
See, next question is, how does flak damage work? How does the damage number on the gun translate into lost plane HP and or crits?
Yeah, so that's a 1-for-1, right? So we try to make that as simple and easy as possible. So if you're looking at flak damage and you're seeing, I don't know, like 320, right? Then that's the number of structure points done to the aircraft. So if an aircraft has, I don't know, 3,000 structure points, it could take a flak hit pretty easy. But you could take 10 of them and then it will be destroyed.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about the real war, right, the real war world, obviously any hit to the aircraft has a chance to damage one of its critical systems. So generally speaking, depending on how lucky or unlucky you were, what type of aircraft you were flying, and whether it was made out of canvas or aluminum. Any flak has the chance of downing an aircraft. But in VB world, we try to make it a little straightforward, and it's just apples to apples.
Okay. Next set of questions are from Waffle. First one being Soyuz win. You can dash his dreams now if you'd like, or you can wait and dash them later, I suppose.
Okay. So, sorry, what's it? I missed the question.
He wants to know when Soyuz is coming out. Yeah.
So do we.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. I mean, the Red Army did just shell her, so I mean, progress is got to be at an all-time low.
Yep. And their next question is, what role, if any, within the game could other auxiliary ships, such as oilers and repair ships, have within the game's current boundaries?
Yeah, so in the current implementation, like if I were to take an oiler and put it into the game, I mean, it would just be that ship, and nobody would use it, right? Like just straight up. But what we intend is that they'll all have auxiliary effects that either apply directly to the campaign map or to your fleet's performance, or both.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The next two questions were sent in by Razeth. Partially, they've already been answered, but we can go through with them if you want to.
Sure.
How are you feeling on player count and community health and engagement?
Well, I love our players and our player base. It's been absolutely phenomenal. But the count, we need more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the second part is there anything more you'd like to see from the community, like fan art, wiki articles, etc.?
Well, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have put something out there like, art, or you created something, a story, or so on and so forth. Yeah, game makers are the exact same way. They love to see the product used. So, I mean, just all the stuff that we see from you guys, whether it's art or stories or what you're doing in the war, I mean, it's just a tremendous high from that, for sure.
Okay.
We want more, in the sense that the more there is, the greater the possibility it will find its way into the hearts of players, right? Who will then come join our game. But beyond that, no, we love it all. I mean, even the non-Victory Bell stuff, like people have like what drawings of aircraft that Cornita's been doing, and I just dig all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Next set of questions are from Free Jones. First one being, do the powers that be, i.e. the higher ups at the company, give you complete control over the metagame narrative, or are there ships that they need to be allowed to enter the rotation for monetization purposes? You don't have to do
not for monetization. Well, I guess maybe for monetization purpose. I mean, there are clearly some very famous ships that we could put out there right now, but that are being withheld, generally for purposes of story, but also because you want to have like a steady diet of cool ships. So that kind of feeds into monetization. But no one sat down and said, for instance, thou shalt not have, I don't know, Repulse, because we can sell her, right, in a different way. People have said, well, we're not going to have Repulse initially because these things are happening over here, and we want her to be a part of those events.
Okay. Their next question was, are players considered to be the entirety of their nation's navy, or are there unknown elements that each nation will have to discover and contend with, both within and separate from the navy? This is in reference.
Yeah, this is a good point to kind of bring up, like your admiralty and all the rest of it, because oftentimes we've seen like players looking at the choices in the war as being maybe the decisive element, but it's not always the case. A good example of this would be Italy, right, and Mussolini. Now the Italians have maybe not intentionally, been strengthening, right, the power, of his government. And they have been aligning themselves, if not into a neutral camp, then certainly to something that is maybe a little bit more distant than Germany, right? But all of these actions can be undone in the work of hours if Mussolini decides to set his nation at war. And that may suck for the Italian captains, but it is nonetheless the case. We have modeled or are simulating, right, sort of national governments and some of those figures, what we know of those figures, right, and the conditions of the time that led to one result or the other. So, you've often hear me sort of encourage, like, you guys to think about the conditions that would create the result that you want, and I would go on encouraging that.
We'll do our best. The third question is: submarines currently take up an entire fleet slot on their own, something no other ship type does in order to be effective. Is there any possibility this could be reworked in the future to a smaller but separate fleet? That would
I mean, what's funny about this one, and I was actually having a conversation with Jabba, I think, about this. But what's funny is, of course, the origin, the design of Victory Bells is the war games of the late 1930s. And the war planners, pretty much everywhere, had an idea about how submarines were supposed to be used, right? And the game reflects that. And I think that what we're all learning is, well, that's not how submarines are supposed to be used. They certainly learned that during the war, right? Like, absolutely, that was one of the key takeaways. And of course, the Germans already knew, right, how to use their subs. So are there ways that we can make submarines more fun, more playable? The answer is yes. We're going to try to do so in the logic of history, and we're going to try to do so in the logic of sort of the physical characteristics of their weapon systems and so on and so forth. But submarines are always going to be a little finicky for the current gameplay, because the current gameplay is about simulating a battle line. And, submarines just don't really have a place in the battle line, right? They're very slow. It's hard to get them in the right position. It's hard to use them, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, it is on our minds, yes.
Okay. Fourth question from Free Jones is: given our understanding that bells have some kind of innate link to each other, how can they be oblivious to the fact that they are firing on one another? Furthermore, certain stories imply they have their own interbell systems in place, but they otherwise defer to their captains.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just remind you that bell senses, while sharp, particularly in ways that humans really have yet to comprehend and quantify, they're not infallible.
Okay.
Oh no, I was actually going to say Jank, but then he left in, so perfect.
All right. Next question's from Fob Hopper. First question.
Hold on. There's one more question that I see in the chat here from Free Jones. I think it's a pretty interesting and topical question, so I'll just grab that and stick it in his little group. I think many of us here would feel a little bit better if you're able to tell us what you're willing to sacrifice to be published. In other words, how radical of a change could you expect in Victory Bells were it to be taken on by a publisher? Generally, what I've seen in the industry is that a publisher is going to be very concerned about monetization. They're not going to be concerned about who's in the game or the operation of the game or how the game unfolds. To them, it's a business, right? And as it should be, right? So for them, it's more of a business calculation or a business strategy, and that is, pure and hands down, what is the right lever to throw to monetize this game? So I do not expect that Victory Bells content, the war, any of our systems, I don't expect any of that to necessarily change What I do expect to see changing is what is going to be their direction, because it will be a direction, right? On monetization in order to partner. That's my belief. I mean, we'll find out, right? Obviously we'll keep that transparent, but I don't expect that to be anything more than that. Okay, sorry, Wig.
That's fun. I mean, you are technically the in charge here, but moving on to Fob Hopper.
You're the facilitator, buddy. You are in charge.
Other question is, can you put in the item description for drops like crew drops that come from Bell's Story missions, the Bell's Choice, I presume, is what's being talked about? Yeah, can you put their stats there because, well, people would like to know what they're buying?
Yeah, it's possible. That's actually been a common ask. Now, in light of our announcement, today, we're obviously not going to be focusing necessarily on that, at least not immediately. But can it be done? Yes, it's a UX change. It's possible. We'd have to think it through because you'd have to be able to scroll because they have a lot. Maybe it's a pop-up window. We'd have to work through these things. But yes, it's a popular choice, and it's one that I agree with.
Okay. Moving on to Calc's questions. First one being, how you doing?
Yeah, I mean, apart from not getting my way on things, yeah, I'm doing fine.
All right. Just wanted to ask. I guess Calc wanted to ask, and I'm forwarding that to you.
Yeah, I'm doing well, Calc. Thanks for asking.
Their second question is, how's Orzel doing design-wise? If you can answer that.
Well, I think Orzel is done. I think she's done. I mean, it shows what I know, right? But
I think Yammy's about to answer. Okay, Orzel,
okay, good.
Thick art is done, and the story is done. Okay.
I've seen her. Let me say that.
Got it.
Yeah, she's very healthy.
Third question: how much of the Bells have released Volume 3s right now?
I don't know how many of them have released Volume 3s. I can tell you that the total that have them written is, I don't know. It must be almost 30, I would think.
But you probably shouldn't be expecting those to come out anytime soon?
No.
Okay.
No, as I mentioned at the beginning, the pipeline cost, right, to implement those, as we have been doing, we have to put that elsewhere.
Okay. And as an extension of that, Bell Duos probably aren't going to be a thing for a while, or Bell Bashes, that sort of thing.
Oh man, sadly, no.
Yeah. Okay. That covers the next couple of questions. Their final question then being, can you check whether Avarice, Corruption, and Murder have finished voices? The wiki says they're voiced, but some of their lines are still clearly placeholders.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's possible because you might have noticed some of the bells too. It depends on when they were recorded, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've seen some growth, right, in the voice lines as we've gone along. And so, that has an impact. It's possible that they recorded early and then, they needed some extra lines, so we just tossed in the unfinished stuff. I'm not really sure on that one.
Okay. Next set of questions are from Dr. Pepper. First one being, on account of the general views of the player base, can the Bells be said to prefer people who share our modern, mostly egalitarian, anti-land, war-y sensibilities?
There's reasons that might be the case. Here's the thing. There's a difference between reading historical fiction and playing it, right? There's one less degree of separation between you, the player, right, and what you're interacting with when you're playing a game. It's one thing when you're telling a story to be honest and unflinching in depicting characters who, espouse prevailing prejudices. It's quite another to try and date them, right?
Yeah.
And in every time and place, of course, there have been people who recognized injustice for what it was, who fought against it, and there have been people who didn't, who in fact may have fought to perpetuate that injustice, because they derived or believed they derived some form of benefit from it. The former group, the good guys, we'll call them, that's a group that's much easier and more fun to write and to read. Now, of course, for certain bells, such as Deutschland, that latter group is unavoidable, and we take those case by case. the cast of the game, I will say, is not every Bell currently active, so rest assured that Bells are diverse in their perspectives, for better and for worse, and they are that way because we are that way.
Okay. Their next question is, how was Dulio's reconstruction completed 6 months early?
Yeah,
Well, Italy's been having a very good war.
Fair enough.
Of course, it doesn't create industrial plenitude, right? So I think that the question absolutely still stands. It's not delayed because of that success, but how did it come 6 months? I think the answer is because Duilio wanted it that way.
Okay.
I think somebody. Oh, it was the French actually. I think the French have already gotten the possibility of bells enabling speed in repair. In a similar way, they can enable speed in sort of construction. I guess you guys see that all the time with your 1-minute repair timers.
Fair enough. Their next question is, which French destroyer got the special treatment facilities? I presume those are referring to the ones for the Spanish sailors that were quarantined for a while.
I think we left that one redacted for a reason. I think we need Lamp to comment on that. Yeah, if we didn't name it, there was a specific reason for that.
Okay. Fourth question is, to what limit can a Bell rearrange their ship structure, if any?
I don't think we've tested the outer bounds of it. Certainly, I can say that there's a ship of Theseus thing going on in that question, right? But I don't think we've tested the outer bounds of that. That'll be something that we explore as we move forward.
Okay. The next question is about Vendetta's story. For those who haven't played it, Vendetta mentions Wrath in their story. How do they innately know about Morgana's we don't? Is that a thing? Is it a mistake?
Wrath is a hypothetical. If Vendetta were a Morgana, that is what she would be. There is no Morgana out there that we are aware of called Wrath.
Okay.
Next evil laughter.
Yeah. Next question is, the fire that had a flower crown that caused an eruption over Japan's way. Any relation to Pele?
I'm sure she'd like us to think so.
You guys have to draw your own inferences on that one.
Okay. Next one is, Morganas don't seem to ever use radar. Is it a gameplay crutch, or are they actually behind us technologically?
For now.
They certainly could use radar if I go into the DB and I add one.
Okay.
Morganas in 1939 do not carry any radar.
Okay. Next one is...
Now, having said that, though, there's a radar-like effect that they use in Morgana Mist, and then that can yield certain situations in which they appear to open up on you, as you might do if you had RDF. But that's a Morgana Mist functionality.
Okay. The next question's not really a question and more of a request, I suppose. Can we have a radio interview with Mischief now?
I think y'all severely and consistently overestimate just how desirable an encounter with Morganas would be.
Okay. The next question relates to
I don't think so.
Fair enough.
Sure.
The next question relates to the Morgana depth charge that was received.
Yeah.
What does the FE in it stand for? I think it's like a
foreign evaluation.
Okay, there you go. Foreign evaluation. Similar for the next question. Mirabilis seems to indicate technology that shouldn't work but does. Why use that word specifically?
Because it's miraculous.
Okay. I got a more mechanics-based one next. Is the accuracy and night ops of a director the same as their median range and bearing accuracy during day and night? If yes, then why isn't it the same terminology used in the radar stats? If no, then what is it?
So first on directors. So there's director accuracy. That's just base. And then you've got night operations, which improves the accuracy at night. Now, what's not being said there is that at night your optical coefficients are very high relative to the clarity of day, and so as a result, it matters less. But it seeks to help you take it down closer to daylight conditions, is what night ops does. The reason why RDF has different stats, though, is because the calculation, the way in which that calculation is derived, is handled differently. So the rangefinder is an optical system. The other one is an electromagnetic, I guess that is light, but it's using the radar equation, right, to determine what it can see or what it can't see, and how big of a band it can sweep, and so on and so forth. So it's just based on the actual, the physical mechanics, right, of their operation.
Okay. Their next question is, when a battery fires with the help of an observation aircraft, what determines its range and bearing accuracy?
The spotting aircraft supplies both.
Okay. Next question is, do all guns have timed fuses for the purpose of firing at aircraft, or are some restricted to contact fuses?
Yes. I think this is asked last one as well. It does yield some ridiculous results. For example, Amerigo's cannonballs now have magically, timed fuses. You could just figure that one out on your own.
Okay. Let's see. How much do the innate rangefinders and controls of different mounts affect in-game performance, such as in the absence of dedicated directors and range keepers?
It's assumed that you have a spotting glass. So what they're talking about there is that a lot of turrets had independent rangefinders that they could use. In fact, notably on the British, they were better than the director rangefinders because they were intended to be primary. We do not model those sources of accuracy. We only model the director-turret relationship. So if you don't have a director, even though in real life that turret is carrying like some amazing, 30-foot base rangefinder, you're using a spotting glass, and that's it.
Their next question, not really a question again, but still, I like the soundtracks. Can we have the sound files, please?
I don't think we really thought about releasing the OST, but yeah, I'll ask around for sure.
Okay. Next question's from a Toxic Tuna. Canonically speaking, is America currently using the naval budget set by the Naval Act of 1938, the Two Ocean Navy Act, or a full-on Morgana counter-command budget? The context of the question being that the answer would likely drastically alter timeframes for manufacturing new warships, or so they claim. Nonetheless, for role-playing purposes, it would be nice to know what kind of budget our Admiralty is working with.
Yeah. So you guys, I think this cycle are actually getting the first of your budget discussions. So that is actually something that is coming to you already. But overall, I would imagine that the situation would be similar to directly after Pearl Harbor, where a lot of things were more or less sort of dramatically changed in terms of funding. At first under an emergency temporary measure, and then later to be codified as an actual strategy or law. So I think you could say emergency measures is probably right where it's at.
Okay. And the final question's from Cervantes. It's quite a few mobile games have a browser or desktop version, for example, on Steam. Is there anything like that in the works for VB?
Yeah, it's possible. One of the things that we've thought about in relation to finding a publisher is perhaps we go to Steam. A lot of folks on Steam that would be interested, I think, in this type of game, but recognize that if we went to Steam, the game itself would fundamentally have to change, right? Obviously, we wouldn't do that server-based, so it would no longer be a live service game. We couldn't really do the war as we're doing it now, and we'd have to release it in chunks. Like, here's the 1939 version, here's the 1940, right, et cetera, et cetera. So there are problems. Now, as far as a browser edition goes, in our plans is a browser edition. Originally, we were going to do that on Nutaku, not the porn site, but the other site. They have a non-porn browser site as well. But their base there is really small. Like they've really blossomed as an adult site, but not so much on the other side. So yeah, if we found somebody that wanted to host, we've looked at Congregate, for instance. If we found somebody who wanted to host, it would be possible.
Okay. And that's all the questions.
I see a couple more. Yeah, I see a couple more in here, so we'll just take it down from wherever I paused. And I do have a hard stop here in just a little bit, but let's see how far down I can go. Should we get both CV2 and CV16? How are we going to tell them apart? CV16 may or may not bear a new name. Otherwise, we'd call it Lexington 2. I think we'll probably allow the war rooms to decide that kind of thing, much as we're going to allow the Soviet war room to figure out what they should call, their new ships, right? Should that sale go all the way through?
If I may step in on this one.
Go ahead.
The original name for CV-16 was actually USS Cabot, but they changed it in honor of CV2 that sank at Coral Sea. So if CV2 does not sink at Coral Sea, there is no reason to ever change the name of CV-16.
There you go. CV-16 is now Cabot. Thank you, Ninja. Let's see. Did any other ships get damaged in the Red Army shelling of the yard? The answer is no. Can you really call Vivi a ship girl name if Akashi doesn't run the item shop? I never thought she did a really good job, so I'm going to say yes on that. Feat tier list, yes, 100%. Will rerun events have the same HM gear as for the first time? Well, Lazaro, you may have mentioned the earlier discussion above. So we're not really talking about rerun events in this particular case because of the content pipeline required. That's a globe change. Instead, we're talking about the return of the gacha. So Błyskawica's gacha. So if the equipment was in that gacha, then it's my expectation it will continue to be in that gacha. Is there any intent to review submarine mechanics and find a solution to improve their viability? Sagral, yes, but the real answer, I think the right answer is they come into their own when it comes to effectively raiding, right? The denial of the enemy resources, and there needs to be game modes, or there need to be campaigns that are about that, right? Now, today, Morganas don't have much in the way of supply lines. They build stuff up, and it's kind of mysterious how or where they are appearing or how they are coming about. But in the future, that is likely not going to be the case. And it may not even be the case when we talk about what's going on in the human war. So I think that the right solution is to allow you guys to make similar choices that the naval planners actually made, right, during the war, when they realized there is no way to get a submarine into a battle line engagement and have it be very effective. Let's see. But they do the scouting role today decently well. Like if you want to set up a sub-only fleet and have them kind of sneak around, they do that decently well. Let's see. Are we? I get all the questions?
I know there's a lot of talk about adding Oh, so go ahead.
Donna's suggesting a subscription. Donna, that is a popular sort of request, and I honor the sort of where that's coming from. We're definitely thinking about it. Like a little daily prestige thing. Of course, any game that we play has that, so why shouldn't we? So it does make sense. Will Diplo store things change anytime soon? No, probably not, Robensol. That's probably likely going to stay as it is for the time being, which is too bad because we have them all identified and built out for like a year. So, but no, sadly, that's going to have to pause. Old rank rewards and diplomacy. Yeah, horse memes. It's you're spot on. That's a really solid idea. It's likely because of the content pipeline we wouldn't be able to do that. But it is a really solid idea. Let's see, monthly. Galactic's accent is pretty sexy. Oh, sure. Yes, definitely. Let's see. Real money for dock slots, so add in millions of DDs. Well, you know, Lazaro, you're right, but this actually goes back to something that Free Jones was kind of like, I think, hinting at, assuming I read him right. Kind of about what are we willing to sacrifice. I think some of the initial principle of the game is that all of these ships are special. Right, and we want them to be unique and heavily researched and well thought out in all their various ways, to really maintain that level of specialness. I don't doubt that we could get a prolific artist, right, and a single VA, and like belt out like I don't know 20 Fletchers, right, or what have you, but I think that would sort of like, in many ways, sort of contravene the spirit or the intent of the game. It's a solid idea though, but probably we'd want to go a different way on that one. Let's see. Well, I mean, it has a porn side, Weeb. I invite you to check it out if that's your thing. Let's see.
I can't speak for Diff's internet, but Discord keeps flickering in and out for me.
Oh, I so far I seem to be hearing everybody okay, but never know. I see that Comrade Waffle wants industrial development plans. I'll put that in the back of my mind. Can we convert unique Morganas into bells for your respect? Surely not. Impossible. You're totally your enemies, and there's no way to recruit them. Yes, you can already scout with subs, and you can launch sneak attacks. Yes, that's the one thing that the Japanese did envision would happen in their war of attrition. Let's see. So I think we get it all? Yeah, I think we got it all, yeah?
Basically everything, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Lazaro, no, thanks for the ideas. And I absolutely encourage, like, you guys, if you want to, come up with cool ideas, if you think there's something that we're missing that we haven't seen that we really need to pay attention to. I mean, honestly, you guys as a community have just been absolutely phenomenal. And anything that you can think of, anything that you can do, any conversations that you can have to help get the word out and get us viral, that would be amazing. In the interim, we're off banging on doors and kicking down doors and seeing what we can come up with.
Diff now did have a question there about, with the slowdown, can we get some vestures perhaps changed or League of Nations vestures added to cover some of the other bonuses such as weight cap, main battery 2 and 3, gun weight, mag weight, etc.?
Anything is possible. Let's say that a likely vector, and this is not going to help everybody, so I do apologize. A likely vector for that is ranking, since we must touch that to make it standardized. But for better or for worse, really getting into sort of like the content balance aspects, we're going to have to we're going to have to take our content time and put that elsewhere. So while I understand where it's coming from and what the ask is, I can't immediately say yes.
Okay.
Virgo, that sounds amazing, and I can figure out who you're going to draw since you are the #1 Nanohi fan. Robensal, no, it's a slowdown. We're doing 1 bell per month, gotcha only, if you didn't read the thing. And then the war is going to continue, albeit at a slower pace, and headed up by Corky from this forum. Oh, there's that is also 1-to-1 Apophis. So if your shell does 2.5 million points of damage, it does that to the plane.
Captain Ruby Rose, regarding your question, experiments on bells. Do not ask questions you do not want answered.
But Apophis, to expend that a little bit more, so the reason for flak is because flak has, depending on the shell, a decently large radius over which it can apply that information. So if you imagine, right, the calculation, you're trying to hit an aircraft in 3 dimensions, and each one has a probability, independently, and then you multiply them together to arrive at your final, probability. That space over which the flak, impacts is large, and it directly increases your chance to hit on all 3 axes. That's also true for the size of the aircraft as well, which is why you see torpedo bombers being, a lot easier to hit. So you do want flak, but if you are going to take a flak approach, you want a lot of it. Otherwise, just going to bounce the aircraft away and maybe deter it. Mike, I think supporting the dev team is just go on and do what you do, and purchase away in the app. I think that would be amazing. Otherwise, tell us, talk to your friends, go to your social media. If you have ideas, give us the ideas, et cetera, et cetera. Calc, yes, because the gotchas don't require a globe change to implement, and as a result, they're very, very cheap.
No, cheaper as in for prestige is what Calc was asking.
Let me go back and read her question. Yeah, someone asked about that exact thing. Right now, we don't have any plans to either increase the amount of prestige or decrease the amount of prestige consumed by the gotcha, but that is something that we will talk about.
And Free Jones asked, can you specify whether the 2 to 4 weeks per update would cover 2 to 4 weeks of action, or is it each a week?
No, it will be each a week. So the war clock will stop, and then it will advance probably 7 days when the next results are known. And Corky will be your go-to sort of person. He's building the plan that will enable this to happen. And so he might be able to give you more direct information on that one.
Okay.
Let's see, Weeb. I've noticed certain actions contribute to war progress, but others don't. Yes. It's not an internal feed per se. It's not mechanical. It's more of an assessment of how are the Finns regarding this. And the thing about those islands, if you ever take a look on a map, is that they threaten the Baltic and they threaten the land. So if you can get enough artillery on there, you could be doing, pretty punishing sort of crossfire on that on the Mannerheim line, right? Within a certain radius. So what you want to be doing is you want to think, okay, they lost the islands, that's a problem. Now, when the artillery gets in a position and they're using it to support their attacks on the village of Summa, that's where you're going to see the war progress come through. Does the calculation count across war plans? Yes, it counts across war plans. Can bells date each other? Sure, absolutely. They all love you, but if you want to imagine some sort of polyamorous event, go for it. You can write that fan fiction.
I could write it. It's 5 cents a word, though.
Let's see. Could you make the gotchas cost league channels? I don't think so. I think that's hard coded actually, but well, definitely I'll peek around. What happens if you're full on bells and you gotcha for another one? I think you get it. Like if you pay for it, like I think it overrides your limits. It's a good question though. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Okay. All right, gang. I have a hard stop, so I've got to drop. Thanks, everybody. I'm sorry for blowing up everybody's feeds this morning with the announcement and whatnot, but we wanted to make sure that we got it to you in the most timely possible way. We were actually going to tell you guys on Sunday, but then the gang in Ukraine and Russia were like, no, we can do this, we can do that, and so we had to talk about it and figure it out. And I don't know, it's in a better spot for sure. So hopefully we'll have some good news. We'll be working on a deal, but anything you guys can do to help socialize, popularize, get us out there, help us get viral, help us get known, enhance our keywords, et cetera, would be most grateful.
One of the things. Oh.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that I was thinking of, TikTok and Instagram Shorts are really great for little clips. For example, one of the things Victory Bells is probably best for is all of the voice acting. If you put little snippets of some really great voice lines out there to a larger crowd, people might be interested where they came from.
Yeah, and if you ever saw any of the little like bell introductions that we were doing, that's exactly what we were like. Yeah, this is like hilarious. Let's get all our best lines, right, and stick it out there. But I mean, if there are content creators on the call, I mean, please, anything you guys can do would be helpful. Oh yes, the reviews. I mean, I should put on my ethical hat here and say, please leave us a unbiased and objective review. And then I'm going to put on my little BCS hat and say, nope, give us a 5-star. All right, gang, I have to drop, but thank you guys so much.
Yep. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll still be doing these Q&As monthly, most likely. If not, I will let people know.
All right. Quick question, Diff. In light of the content freeze, any objection to throwing out a height without a name, just to noodle on?
No, that had some blowback on us last time. So
it did, yes.
I think what we'll do, we'll just have Yami drop the teasers, and we'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
But I think they'd be interested. Let's avoid that scenario before. Yeah, Kat, you already saw it happen, right? Like we just changed the name to Victory Bell Ship Girls. We finally appear in the frickin' store. Thank you. Free Jones, we love our spoilers, right? We love all of our little secrets. And we accidentally posted the bell height chart because people were asking, and it included like a whole bunch of unreleased bells on it. So people figured out what we were sneaking in there. See, look at part of my language. Look at that ad. Like that is 500,000 a month talking right there. God
yeah, that's SEO for you. Wow.
Anyway, at least we're above Abyss Horizon. We can celebrate that, right?
True.
All right, gang. I must drop here. Thanks, everybody, and cheers.
Have a good one.
Peace out.